Okay, y'all. So here we are once again, where the episode that was supposed to air is not airing. Okay, if you are on my newsletter, which you can sign up at the link in the description box, you have already received your early access pass to the episode that was supposed to air today. And this is not like a current events, gossip blog kind of podcast, thing. However, I think it would be completely just not true to where I am in this moment and the stuff that I've been posting on my little platforms to change the subject by dropping the episode that I actually had scheduled. Therefore, we are talking about this. Welcome back to season 2 of the podcast. Different name, same concept. I've got things to say about everything. This season, we're doubling down on the mental health content, continuing to ponder the randomness of life, and trying to keep some laughs sprinkled in between. You can keep up with me on Instagram and Threads at Pat Pontificates and subscribe to the weekly newsletter at patpontificates.com. All links are provided in the show notes. I'm your host, Patrice, preaching authenticity, wellness, and freedom to the masses. Let's disrupt. Rat beef. Oh, what a time to be alive. So yeah, once again, like this is not a podcast that is structured around responding to everything that happens in pop culture. It's part of the reason why I put out episodes every other week and not every week or a couple times a week. My life is not set up that way. However, I feel like this is a huge, not just cultural moment, just historical moment, all the things. And I say historical, I mean actual history. It's bringing in a lot from history, and just there's all these like socio-political things that are happening here, and I am by no means the expert, but I have been talking about it. I know you were talking about it. The millions and millions of views over the course of a couple of days prove that everybody's talking about it. So I'm gonna throw my hat into the ring here on this podcast, because do something new. Like, that's what we do. I'm going to start by grounding the conversation is in, I do not have I'm going to go back to something that I said in the previous podcast episode. I do not argue with people who are not arguing from the same context, do not have the same level of understanding as I do, or as the conversation is having, rather, about the thing. If that is the case, I'm sorry, but we are not equally yoked enough to discuss. So this conversation is not talking to people trying to prove to me why Drake is still the man on top. I think let's just get this out the way. Let's get out the way where I stand. Drake is not winning nothing. And this is not about who's your favorite. This is long since not been about who's your favorite anymore. Like, this is not that kind of rap beef. I dare say this is not even a rap beef anymore, right? This is a cultural reckoning moment, like a hip hop reckoning moment. Like, yeah, we in here, getting our little, two-step in, but this is a moment. And I mean, for the intention of Kendrick, this is not just about a beef. If it was just about a beef, this would have gone a lot differently. A whole bunch of other rappers would have jumped in. J. Cole would have still had his hat in the ring, but J. Cole realized when something was just not his business and he needed to go back home and with his children. So if you're still having the conversation in terms of who is winning, or like Drake being able to come back, we're past that point. We're not there. This is not the conversation that I'm having, though I'm sure I'm going to throw some stuff in there. This is a conversation about enough is enough, right? And where do you stand? Where this is where I think the people who are still like trying to box for Drake are starting to look really interesting under the light, because it's not just some random like rat beef diss track allegations that have been thrown out with baseless, there is a basis for a lot of what's been said about Drake specifically, right? But not just because Kendrick said it, but because we've seen it. And that's what's in Euphoria, Kendrick said, "I'm what the culture's feeling." And I don't think anything has been said in any of his songs that are not things people have been openly and quietly saying about Drake. And I think that's why this moment is so nasty, because nobody is like, there's a very specific subset of people who are like, "Oh my God, this is brand new information." A lot of people are like, "Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm." And that is why he's being cooked so well. The foundation for this is strong. Point being that after the stuff comes out, now people can pull up the quote unquote receipts, and in this case, literal receipts, for the things that are being said. And now you have to sit and kind of analyze with a brain about what you're going to do about this information, right? You might not have known the whole story. You might not have known all the things, because there were some things, some moments that were being shared about Drake that I was like, I absolutely knew nothing about this, but my God, this is disgusting. And you know what's funny? I had heard some things, and I had known of some things. I had read some articles. I knew some stuff was going on. I knew about the Millie Bobby Brown and all that. So I had recently said in my Instagram story that I had deleted all his stuff off of my like Apple Music, because it felt like listening to R. Kelly. It felt like listening to R. Kelly. It did. And I know that there are people out there who have their very strong feelings about playing Pied Piper music, but I think you are also part of this divide in this moment. This moment is a reckoning, because there's a lot of things that are being brought up about, to take this off of just Drake himself, bigger than Drake, right? It's about the ability of anybody to come in and profit off of something that they have no investment in other than a monetary investment. And to do this in any other context might work for you. But to profit off of a culture, off of a people, off of a lived experience, off of pain, off of suffering, off of, the exploitation of insert is gnarly business, right? And you have to be prepared if that's just what you want to do. Like, if you just want to be Bezos, you just want to be Bezos. Like, Bezos and Musk do not care that they are villains. They are fine with that. Drake is a villain, but wants to be like, no, like the people's person. Like, no, I'm here to vibe. Like, everybody loves me. And I don't want to get too deep into the astrology of things in this conversation, because I don't want to sound like that guy, but it's that Scorpio thing, right? Or at least the stereotypical ideas of what people have about Scorpio. Let me put it that way. Of like knowing you're being a devious character, but being upset that has not stayed underneath the surface and is ruining the image you want to portray instead, which is like happy-go-lucky, loving character, come close to me, which, ironically, another Scorpio, but which is exactly what Diddy did. And I made the comment to somebody that Drake, Diddy, two sides of not even like sides of a coin, just similar strategies. I don't know. Not similar strategies. Similar people, different strategies. And one of the reasons why this stuff is not working out for Drake is because if you're going to be devious, your public persona should not also be deviant. You have to hide that, right? Like, that's what... Anyway, I'm not trying to give you... This is the best way, the O.J. Simpson, if I would do it, if I did it. But Diddy, in contrast, right? He knew all that stuff was coming out about him. Granted, even before that, he's been working on his image a long time, right? Like, every now and again, he just shape shifts. He's not new to this. He wants his image publicly, and by publicly, I mean like general public. I think everybody else close enough to the stuff knew who he was, but he wanted like the people who could be influenced, he wanted them to think of him in a way that was non-threatening. And that was one thing that was a surprise to me. I never looked at Diddy and thought this guy was dangerous. I'd always heard whispers of did he get Biggie set up, but you don't have to be a dangerous person to get somebody set up. You know what I mean? Like you yourself are like, would pistol whip me. Knowing that you yourself wouldn't act terror with your own hands is a little bit different, I guess, for me personally, thinking about it conceptually. But anyway, think about what Diddy did with that Love album, right? Think about, I mean, by then people kind of knew like, all right, what's going on here? But when he tried to give people their masters back, which was, he went a little too far there. That was like obvious. But his affiliation with Carisha, rolling around with Young Miami, looking like the benevolent older guy, just kind of being dragged here and there, kind of even portraying himself not as feeble, but as like, I've just reached a point in my life where I'm just trying to chill and hang out. Oh, here she go, taking me to another party, like making himself seem like he's just a regular guy. All this time, insert all the stuff that we found out about Diddy. Drake, on the other hand, if you're going to be doing nefarious shit, and I think there's just, I don't know, a level of ego. I don't know. I don't want to psychoanalyze the man on here because I don't want to get in that kind of trouble. But the fact that people can pull up videos of you on stage, DMs, like there's just all this stuff out there that you just didn't feel necessary to put away. Like, can you imagine what is in the dark then? So when we look at Drake in terms of like what is really being said here and what the issue really is that he's played around in a sandbox a little too long, just kind of telling not us, telling the general consumer who is, let's be real about who's Drake's core audience has transitioned into being. Young white college kids, maybe younger, because I stopped listening to him a long time ago. So when I figured out that like Drake had this hold on like teenage white girls, that was its own thing. So he's basically been playing in a sandbox, continuing to tell them he is the most legitimate black culture thing that exists. So they cling to him because there's other people in hip hop they can't readily access a Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick has white fans, sure, like has non-black fans, sure, but the access is not as quick. Drake's bars are easily digestible. Where Drake's gonna go, how he's gonna do his shows, they're all easily accessible, and they legitimize them as people who want to enter hip-hop and black culture. All that corny shit he be doing, all that corny shit he allows, it allows anybody in the cookout. It's like, it's supposed to be +1 RSVPs to the barbecue, and this motherfucker bought 20 people. That's what Drake is. And that's why people are tired. On top of all the other things, sure. But that's what Drake is. And so a lot of people feel comfortable, and this is what I'm seeing with a lot of the Drake, like, he got this, have critiques that come from nowhere. People who don't understand what a rap beef is, like what diss tracks are supposed to sound like. Like, you're telling me the beat don't sound fire on a diss track? I mean, now they do, because many things have been released since then. But you don't belong here. And I tell this as somebody who grew up super Christian, couldn't even listen to stuff like this. And I had to like onboard myself into blackness via hip hop on my own. Ironically, which I did through Southern rap, because at the time, like T.I. was who was on top when I was getting, finally able to sneak listens on BET, and like Lil Wayne and all that stuff. So that was my introduction. And it's not all the stuff that you be talking about started from the bottom. It's not whatever you think you're doing now with this gun talk. It's just not any of that stuff. So you barely got allowed in, and now you're just like, you've held the door open. And we have people like a DJ Vlad who feels So comfortable. Let me tell you, I don't know the long story on DJ. He's an actor. Don't remember his name. Very popular. He's popular. I just don't remember his name. I think by saying this, you'll reckon, is he just an actor? Anyway, he talks about how, was it Vlad? Yes. He talks about how Vlad asked him to come on one of his podcasts, like to do his podcast. And I guess in this particular one, like Vlad. So I found out that with some of Vlad's interviews, I don't know which show, whatever it is, that he doesn't, when he interviews some of these like rappers and people who goes on their show, I guess depending on who they are, the man don't even be in the building. The person comes into the studio or whatever, and they sit and talk to basically like an iPhone or a camera on a stick. And Vlad just be in his house, back turned, cooking, doing whatever. And I was like, so I'm like, you shitting me. I then, later on would see some Black clips just scrolling through the timeline. And I'm like, that's why they're turned facing something. But Vlad's voice comes from like behind, like, I guess if you're looking at it from your phone, it feels like he's coming from behind the camera view or whatever, but you don't see the man. How embarrassing is that? Are you not embarrassed? That's not weird to y'all? The man doesn't even give you the respect of being in a room with you, but he want to interview you for the culture? Whose culture? And why? Y'all, we have to be so for real. We have to be so for real. Like, legitimizing white folks who come in the song, not a colleague, a colonizer, allowing folks to come into Black genres, cultural genres. It doesn't even matter if you're Black. This is even like, yo, if you have something that is for you. It's not that outsiders can't be allowed, because listen, at the end of the day, we be sharing stuff in America. Nothing is just 100% what it is. But you gotta have some fucking respect. And something got lost when people decided they didn't have to have that respect. And this is the problem. And it goes back to what I said before about like, Aubrey, we know how you got here. You barely got in. All the video of you pre-Drake shows no real connection. I don't even know if you had a connection to hip hop, let alone Black culture, but whatever. But it's not like we don't have white rappers. It's not like we don't have non-Black rappers. It's not like, we don't have people who are Black who rap and real alternative. And obviously they don't rap about like the things that people stereotypically want hip-hop people to rap about. Like, it's not like hip-hop does not have its own like level of diversity. You just came in here with your identity crisis and just keep crisising over and over. And then worse, there is collateral damage as a result of your crises. Because we haven't even discussed how, for some reason, you feel very comfortable attacking Black women and going after Black women. Now, obviously, there's a larger conversation that I'm actually not going to have in this episode, to be honest. It's too big. The reason why Drake feels comfortable doing that is because the Black men who legitimized him have made him feel comfortable doing so. Obviously. And that is another reason why it's like, we're not just laughing at Drake. I don't know if people are getting that either. Kendrick's tracks also have a undertone of, don't y'all be out there laughing too hard. They not like us names people who have helped legitimize him when he didn't need to be, and are also people who have had, not all of them per se, but some more than others, I guess I will say, flagrantly misogynistic content in their songs. And not just misogynistic, because you could argue that as a whole, but like antagonistically so. And that's what Drake has copied, the antagonism. And what gives you the right, babe? For someone who's hiding, now we come around to, for someone who's hiding children, at least we know has hidden a child, who has inappropriate relationships with children. We don't need, like, we have enough to see that the boundaries are not there, and so on and so forth. Like, what gives you the right to come in here and act a fool? So the moment is bigger than who won. The moment is a reckoning with, what are you going to do about this? It's not just, what are you going to do about this, Drake? It's not just, what are you going to do about this, Drake's friends? It's not just, what are you going to do about this music industry? It might not even just be, hey, feds, what are you going to do? It's about, what are we going to do as consumers? What are we going to do as the audience? What are we going to do as the people who are right now two-step into not like us? What are we going to do when the tracks stop dropping? What are we going to do if we find out things about the allegations being true? If. But what are we going to do about what we already know? So I felt that from Euphoria, Kendrick was also kind of putting us out there a little bit. Like, that wasn't just for his direct people. That's for people who support him. That's people who are trying to, like, fall over themselves to create this narrative that, like, no, this can be more balanced. This is not about the bars. Well, it is, because the bars got the content, but it's not just about the songs. This is about the implications of the bars. This is about the actions of the bars. This is about what the bars is trying to, like what the seismic consequences are going to be of the bars. Everybody participating in this, from the blogs to Ricky Rose playing it in the pool party. As troll as he is, he's such a problematic troll, but I am enjoying the troll. Everybody, it's hard for, like, people in the industry to come to Drake's defense. Not only do they not have, like, the pen game to do so, but when you think about what's being called out, they start falling into the same categories as being the same level of criminal. So what can I say? Was you at the mansion parties? Did you let this happen? So what will we do when the dust settles behind this here thing? And that's my question. This is the reckoning that's happening. It's not my question, it's everybody's question. It's Kendrick's question. It's the question that's coming out of this from an analysis standpoint, like bird's eye view. It's like, well, what's next? Thank you for listening to another episode of the Disrupting Silence podcast. In the show notes, you'll find a link to join the weekly insider newsletter community for like-minded disruptors, people pondering their purpose, and recovering perfectionists. You can also follow me on Instagram and Threads at Pat Pontificates. Links are also in the show notes. If you have a listener question or just want to connect with me directly about something, send me an email at hello@patpontificates.com. Until next time.